Welcome to today's Research Business Daily Report for RBDR's annual research look ahead at Super Bowl ads that are coming to us all this Sunday afternoon during the 4.5-hour big game. RBDR is sponsored today and this week by Decision Analyst, helping companies accelerate their new product development. You can learn about the entire battery of capabilities at Decision Analyst by visiting www.decisionanalyst.com. And if you're interested, because new products are a matter of survival for many companies, we've got special information from Decision Analyst about that subject, which we'll tell you about at the end of today's report. On Tuesday, we interacted with 3 research executives who helped us look at many of the commercial spots that are scheduled to appear on the Super Bowl 50 telecast this Sunday afternoon on CBS. As has become the case, more and more of these ads have already been released in order to expand their viewership profile and hopefully impact. So, what's coming on Sunday that we should be paying attention to? Helping us reach some of those conclusions are Decision Analyst Executive VP Bonnie Cannoli, Dialsmith founder and CEO David Paul, and Brand Keys founder and president Robert Pasakoff. We began by asking them about what new trends they see coming in the ads this week. So the trend so far this week about the Super Bowl commercials coming up on Sunday is that celebrity is the big new trend. But is there something else going on trend-wise? Bonnie, why don't we start with you?
Well, we've definitely seen, as you're saying, a lot of celebrities and a lot of different brands using the celebrities, but also a lot of music, a lot of animals and humor, many of the things that we've seen before in Super Bowl commercials.
David?
Well, we're seeing a pre-release strategy of more ads pre-released this year than ever before. At this time last year, we had about 8 ads pre-released, and this year, so far, we have 20. So going for that early buzz. There's also a lot of use of hashtags this year, and while hashtags themselves aren't new, they're being integrated directly into the name of the ad, and they're clearly being used to try to drive social conversation, in real time.
And Robert?
The whole aspect of social networking has become the theme of this is why I do this.
Okay. You're not a big proponent of using the Super Bowl as a big advertising venue, are you?
Well, I don't think that it often results in the kind of ROI that people are looking for. So, no, I think people need a real brand strategy in place and not just look for a big audience.
Okay, but the ROI that you're referring to is very different for a WeatherTech versus a Budweiser versus an automobile company, right?
Well, I was going to comment about that when we were discussing this earlier. The issue is that ROI is going to be category specific. People do not buy cars the same way they buy snacks, the same way they buy beer. And so there are ways to look at a category and be able to see positive behavior has been engendered by the Super Bowl commercial.
Mm-hmm. At $5 million a spot, does a Super Bowl ad make more sense for a company like a WeatherTech, which has a marketing message, a price point that most everybody can afford, etc., than it does for a Budweiser or a big car company? David, why don't you take that one?
I think it certainly can. It really depends on to Robert's point, what the strategy is of the brand. I think, for the established brands, especially those who tend to advertise in the Super Bowl, cars and beers and snacks, it's harder to really track the ROI. The movement of the needle is going to be smaller, but every incremental movement of the needle for them represents potentially a huge amount of revenue and profit. Just a little bit harder, certainly, to track. Whereas a WeatherTech in recent years, can make a bigger splash. And if the Super Bowl ad can be part of a strategy, and then you can track positive uptick in movement following that, then it can be a bigger bang for your buck for a smaller, lesser known brand, if they're willing to take that risk and if they're smart enough to really put it into a strategy that can last and not just 30 seconds for $5 million.
There are more car companies that have ads in this year's Super Bowl, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Why is that the case? What are they trying to do?
Well, Bonnie, you want to?
Well, I was going to say, well, it's interesting because many of them are introducing either a new vehicle or it's a new makeover of a vehicle. So it's a broader product line introduction that they're trying to do. But there are certainly, these are the advertisers in general who have pretty deep pockets and spend a lot of money on television advertising anyway.
Yeah. The other thing that we're seeing early on, though, with two of the pre-released auto ads is that they're focusing on features. So with the Honda truck ad, they're focusing on speakers in the truck bed, which may or may not be necessary to a lot of truck buyers. And then Hyundai with the Ryan Reynolds spot is focusing on pedestrian warnings that alerts you to proximity around the car. So while some of them may be new car releases, they're also focusing on particular features that they think are going to be attractive.
And somebody pointed out to me that Colgate's running a commercial that basically tells you to turn the faucet off while you brush your teeth.
Yeah.
I mean, I do that myself, but what is that all about?
It's a community service, public service commercial, and based on the assessments that we've done, we don't see it as being either really entertaining or really engaging. But hey, someone said, let's do something nice for the world and the community.
So they're going to get the Good Guy Award for the commercials.
Well, you know what? They can love you, but you still have to answer to the CFO.
Yeah. Robert, you brought up engagement before, along with ROI. How do you measure engagement, and how well have Super Bowl ads done in that regard in recent years?
Okay, the issue is something we call brand engagement. It is how do people look at the brand and see it meeting their expectations, and that those expectations, of course, are category specific. So that's why it's different for beer or cars or computers. Anything that anyone does in terms of marketing or promoting or advertising the brand ought to somehow make you feel better about the brand meeting those expectations. And the psychological metrics that we use, along with some really neat higher order statistical analyses, really allow us to see whether or not there are effects to the brand, to how people look at the brand. When a brand is seen better, sales usually go up. It's a behavioral model rather than a dollar model, but axiomatically, if people behave better towards you, you ought to make more money. And for the past 13 years that we've done the Super Bowl ad engagement studies, we would have said to you that it was about 50-50. That half the commercials ended up doing something good for the brand, and the other half were either just terrible commercials or they were entertaining commercials that did nothing for the brand. We make the distinction about the difference between engagement and entertainment. And of course, something that's entertaining and engaging is the best possible thing you can have. That number this year we're offering up at about 39%. It was down to, I think, 46% last year. We're thinking that it's around 39 or 40% of the commercials are going to be successful.
If these commercials have to be assessed in ways beyond ROI and engagement, do you guys see anything else? Bonnie, why don't you take that first?
Well, I would say that it depends, and we've kind of mentioned this, both Robert and David, in the past, that it depends on what the overall strategy for that brand and that product is. And I also think a common shortcoming of advertising, both on Super Bowl and not on the Super Bowl, tends to be that it doesn't tie the commercial to the brand well enough. That in the end, the brand reinforcement, the brand recall is weak. And if they come across and they know that it was a truck commercial, but they're not sure which brand they saw, it doesn't add to them either in sales or foot traffic at a dealership or anything else. So I think that it can be very important if it's integrated into a broader strategy of product introduction, and social media and other things can be added along with that. But the brand connection has to be very strong.
And if it's the anchor to a campaign that you're going to see during the course of the year.
Exactly. It's something that's kicking off now. It's the new vehicle introduction, and we're going to continue seeing this over the next, 6 months, 12 months, then it makes a ton of sense. But if it's a one-off commercial that we're going to air one time and we may not ever see it again, odds are good it's not going to be recalled or the company may not benefit.
David, what's your perspective?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I think, what's important to at least take away from the day of the Super Bowl or the week leading up to it when the ads are airing is whether or not they're making some kind of an emotional connection in the moment. And then, of course, the long-term tracking of the ROI and benefit of that is going to tell the ultimate story of whether it was the right decision. But, we see, there are different categories of ads, obviously. You've got the funny ones, you've got the empowering ones. We have an interesting example here where last year Always had their Like a Girl campaign that, at least in our testing on overall appeal of the ad, was relatively high. And this year's empowerment ad, I'll call it, that we've seen early so far is from Mini with their Defy Labels ad. And that one's actually, at least for overall initial appeal, is tracking quite a bit lower. And it seems to be having less of that immediate visceral kind of reaction and connection. And again, that doesn't necessarily speak to long-term ROI and benefit, but for tracking in the moment, it's important to make sure that you connect on a level that's going to work, whether that's humor or heartstrings or social responsibility.
David, you brought up emotion, which I'm surprised took this long into this three-sided interview to come up as a factor, because everybody's talking about how your spot has to bring some emotion, it has to raise some emotion.
Yeah.
Does that mean that these sets of commercials are emphasizing that less than we've seen in previous years? And the three of you can all deal with that question.
Yeah. So what we're seeing in the early released ones so far is we're seeing less tugging at the heartstrings. That may well come. But, what we've seen in years past, at least with our top performing ads, have been the Budweiser puppies or the Heroes Welcome, things like that. What we're seeing so far now we're seeing the celebrities, we're seeing attempts at humor, many of which don't work. And that's the death knell of all is if you attempt humor and it fails. And then we're seeing empowerment. So I think that emotional connection, whether it's getting a laugh, and you get the endorphins pumping a little bit and I connect with you through humor, or whether it's connecting through social empowerment or engagement. We're seeing a little bit less of that in the start so far this year, but there's still a long way to go.
Okay, Robert, you look like you're busting at the seams.
I think that the difficulty has always been that we misuse the language. It's we're confused by the common language that we use because a lot, David, if I may, a lot of the issue regarding humor or empowerment are really not the things that leverage emotional values within the context of the brand and the category. They are techniques. They are the imagery. You can do things with great humor that do in fact leverage how people feel. I think that the issue regarding emotional use of emotions, use of emotional engagement, is an understanding of what those factors are within the category and how people are going to react to it.
Bonnie, let me get to you about emotion, because I want your input about whether it's being played up less this year than it might have been in earlier years.
I think it may be, and again, David's point is well taken. We don't know all the commercials that are going to be on Sunday exactly. So it may be being played up less now, but I think it very much depends, as we've all said before, on the product category and the brand itself. If the brand and the product category already elicit a lot of emotion, there's a lot of emotion in that decision, and a car buying one is a big one. Yeah. Home buying and financial freedom, and they've taught we've got some commercials around that area as well. Those commercials are really pulling on your emotion to make sure that your family is financially set and organized and everything's ready to go, and car buying is a big one.
Our thanks to Bonnie, to David, and to Robert for their help. And we hope that you have gained some information research-wise about the ads based on this conversation. Tell us. You can email me at rflbob@gmail.com. That's your Research Business Daily Report. We've been sponsored by Decision Analyst, helping companies to accelerate their new product development. You can learn about Decision Analyst at www.decisionanalyst.com. And this is a company that's got quite a bit of expertise in new product development because it is a pathway to the future and the lifeblood of strategic survival for many entities out there. So you are invited to read New Products, an article written specifically by Decision Analyst President Jerry W. Thomas about the subject. We, of course, have it linked. It's going both to subscribers in emails that are going out this morning, and it's also in the description box underneath today's video. We hope you have a great research day, and we hope that the rest of this opening week of February is a good one for you business-wise. Please enjoy the weekend and hopefully the Super Bowl if you're going to be watching it. And we'll see you on Monday.